Hey guys, Young Ewan back here, Advanced Property Strategies, and back for another episode. Hopefully you're having a great week so far, and looking forward to sharing with you this section, number 2, mistakes that people make. Section number 2, last week we were talking about people paying too much, not knowing how to do feasibilities, as well as not having a focus on a strategy, right? And just being diluted or distracted with shiny, bright objects. So really excited to be sharing this with you. Some of it, or a lot of it, comes from my first personal experience with some mistakes that I have made or mistakes that I've seen other people make over time. But oftentimes, like one of the biggest mistakes that developers make, and it's not just even in property development, in business generally, is that people like to spend the profits before it hits the accounts. And I did that. I know leading up to the GFC that we were on track to make $1 million profit between myself and my business partner, and the GFC came, and those profits disappeared right before our eyes. So with a lot of hard work, with a lot of painstaking effort, we're still able to make 200 grand between us in the middle of the GFC, because we bought well. We bought well, and that comes down to what I said previously. Some people pay too much. We bought well. You make your money when you buy, and you can't emphasize that enough, especially with bigger projects, because it's one thing to go 1 into 2, and you might make one mistake, you multiply that 2 times, but it is multiple and exponential. Sorry, if you've got 10 lots, 20 lots, 100 lots, it's definitely an exponential number of mistakes being made. So definitely the first mistake I'd say that developers make, investors make, people make generally when they're making good money, is they spend the profit too soon and they get really excited, which is fine, but they kind of lose sight, and the ego gets involved, and they lose sight of what the job is to finish the project, get in, get out, get paid, right? Get in, get out, get paid. Those 6 words really summarize the learnings and the velocity of money, the learnings from 20 years of my experience as a property developer, as a property investor, as an entrepreneur, right? So get in, get out, get paid, and focus on ways that you can make projects quicker, more efficient, more profitable, because a small mistake could push a project back by 3 months. Like I'm finishing a project right now. We started it roughly 2 years ago, and we should have been out by now. We should have been money in the bank, $1 million or so profit, get in, get out, get paid. But due to the difficulties of the site, distraction, this and that, effectively, it took us 18 months just to get the approval. So, with the GFC, that project, there was 20 lots. We weren't the developers necessarily. We had bought the blocks of land off the developer and then reselling it to the public by wholesale, sell retail. And then from that point of view, we'd locked in $1 million profit, right? But the developer hit some huge obstacles and the market changed, the expenses went up, and they weren't happy with the price that we'd paid them originally. So our agreement basically fell onto deaf ears, and we had some huge issues, because if we couldn't pay for the lots that we'd contracted to buy, we'd have to buy them. So if we couldn't sell them, if we couldn't pay for them, we'd be in big trouble. We couldn't pay for the lots. So we bought them with the right to on-sell it, buy wholesale, sell retail. We had the right to resell it. However, those blocks fell over. And so, get in, get out, get paid. It eliminates so many issues, right? It eliminates so many issues. You might think, what about the capital growth in the market? Well, you talk to the Sydney siders right now, and you talk to the Melbourne people right now, where the last 12 to 24 months, they've experienced 10, 15% drop in values. So in terms of if you're playing a long-term game, i.e. a buy and hold play, the more time in the market is generally better, because it is compounding and there are possible changes. But the more time you have in a market from a transactional point of view, it's very much like a fruit shop. You're really concerned. I'd be concerned that my stock or my fruit would go off. So when stock is on the market too long, it's not just the stock itself, it's the holding costs, like interest rates, like land tax, like council rates. You know, it's one of those things that just eats away at the project week in, week out, day in, day out, which you don't even know that's there because you don't feel it. But the bank knows it's there, and every day that you're late, it gets an extra $100, $1,000, and that's the reason why banks are $1 billion worth of profit, right? Not because they're dumb, it's because they're smart, and they know that developers, the longer they take, the more profit that they make, right? And there's default interest rates and delayed payments, etc., etc. So really get in, get out, get paid, and don't focus on the spending until the money is in the bank. That's a really big lesson there for you, if I could give that to you. Don't get me wrong, it's important to potentially have some smaller rewards along the way. You know, once you've got an approval, once you've got starting the build, start the subdivision, start the construction, yeah, reward yourself. Get yourself a massage, go test drive a nice car, get a haircut, buy a new pair of shoes, but yeah, not necessarily going and spending 500 grand and buying a Lamborghini on debt, right? So yeah, which leads me to the next point of mistakes that developers make is, yeah, oftentimes they want to pump up how wealthy they are, so they'll buy expensive cars to look the part. You know, and I started when I bought my first Mercedes, it was secondhand. I think I paid around about $38,000 for it. It was a C-Class, which is entry level, and yeah, 5 years old, 50,000 Ks on the clock, C200, and yeah, I bought it on debt, right? I admit it, I bought it on debt, and that really emphasized to me, especially in the GFC when the car value was going down, and the value of the car was a lot less than what I owed the bank. And in the GFC, I wanted to sell it, but I wasn't able to sell it because the debt on it was significant, and I didn't have the cash handy to be able to pay off that debt. So my point is that, yeah, oftentimes the other mistake that developers make inside of spending money too early is they'll go and splash out on things to make them look wealthy because they're actually not wealthy. Like real estate agents, you'll see them in their Audis and BMWs and their Mercedes on debt, right? There's nothing wrong with not driving nice cars, European cars, exotic cars, but I suggest, yeah, don't buy them on debt. Pay cash, right? You can get a really nice car in the $20,000 to $40,000 range, and pay it with cash. You know, I haven't had car payments for a very long time because I pay cash. You know, the car I'm driving at the moment is a nice Mercedes, paid cash, right? So, and not only that, when you pay cash, you get a really good deal. You get a good discount when you're negotiating with car sales people. You get a really good price because, especially with the car that I traded in, my older, I wouldn't say old, AMG Mercedes, had no debt on it, was debt free, and yeah, I wasn't borrowing money, so there was no variables. It's either we do the deal or we don't. It's not a variable of can I get finance or not. So yeah, yeah, in summary, just be mindful of your spending, especially when the money hasn't hit the bank, and try not to project. You don't have to project wealth, especially at the beginning. Sometimes it does help. I do admit it does help as an inner confidence if you're parking in front of an auction in a nice car, but you don't have to spend $200,000 to project that wealth. You know, even a second-hand five-year-old Mercedes, like I said, for less than $40,000 can project that sufficiently, especially when properties are sub $1 million. When you're starting out, most properties are sub $1 million. So being able to project that you can afford that, yeah, with a second-hand European car for less than $40,000 is very easy to do. You're not going to break the bank and put yourself on a limb, right? So I know people who drive Ferraris or Lamborghinis on debt, and yeah, you see them around knowing that, you know, if they have one financial issue, that car's going to get repoed and they're going to be in big financial strife. So not just not being able to pay that car payment, but it does affect their CRA as well and ability to borrow money down the track. So, you know, that's definitely one thing that I learned post GFC is liquidity. You got to make sure you have that liquidity, whether it's cash and serviceability, right? So post GFC, I spent many months and years getting my financials right so that I could borrow $2 million very quickly, or I could settle a property and pay cash for $1 to $2 million very quickly, because it gives you the edge in the marketplace. You know, with all the APRA stuff coming through in the last few years, serviceability and cash are absolutely critical. And obviously, getting investors and having them in the background is important too. But sometimes investors take time to make decisions, especially when the market's a little bit tentative with elections and interest rate changes and change of governments, etc., etc. Sometimes investors that you may have relied on in the past may not be able to rely on every time on time when you need them to perform. So what I mean by that is if you need to do a $2 million settlement or a $1 million settlement and settle in 2 weeks, you may just settle it with cash and then go capital raise after settlement, as well as talk to the banks to get them to refinance in the meantime. So hopefully you've enjoyed this episode. In summary, basically we're talking about, with the profits that you make, not pre-spending it and not getting ahead of yourself, and not needing to impress other people with fancy cars that you can't really afford. It's just one of those things I had to, like I said, go through that learnings myself and not pre-spending profits. So very, very hard, easier to say, but hard to do, especially when you've been through tough times and you can just smell the money underneath that vault or through the vault. But until it's in the bank, it's not done till it's done, right? So catch you next time. Hopefully you've enjoyed this recording. Talk to you later. Young Nguyen, Advanced Property Strategies.